No John Morton calling the plays? No problem.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, here we go, everybody. Matt Dery with you. It is another episode of Locked On Lions on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network. Matt Dery with you on this, a Sunday postgame edition on a Sunday, November 9th into Monday, November 10th. Lions win, take care of business this afternoon in D.C. as they just destroy the Commanders 44-22. I had 41-21 as my score prediction today. If you saw the graphics on social media, we got close, but the Lions took care of business today, handled the Commanders. A lot to get into today, certainly, including the major move that the broadcast, and I'm going to get to the broadcast at the end of the podcast today, because I'm not going to spend 30 minutes on Jonathan Vilma, all right? He's beyond atrocious on television, all right? That broadcast should never, ever, ever. They should be taken off the air. But the Lions today were great. The offense was great. Dan takes over play calling duties. No one could confirm it. No one could admit it. No one could say anything. I mean, if I'm the Fox producer and director, I got a split screen going. I got Campbell on one side, Morton on the other. You can see Morton's not calling the plays. It was Campbell. And he said on Friday there was going to be a tweak with the offense, and that was the tweak. Dan Campbell demoting John Morton. Now, I'm recording this at 7:40 Eastern. Dan Campbell has not spoken yet to the media. I want to get this show out to you. My guess is Dan Campbell is going to tell you that this was just a small tweak, and it's just we were just playing with some things and checking things out, and like he told Megan O'Leary at halftime, we're testing things out. Or the bottom line is Dan Campbell started calling the plays. You could see Jared Goff after the game was over. At the end of the game, when it was garbage time and the backups were in, Jared Goff looked at him and said, "You still got it." Remember, Dan Campbell did this his first year. He was the head coach. Anthony Lynn was the OC, and he stripped Lynn of his play calling duties and called the plays himself the end of the season. I don't know if we're going to get to that point where Anthony Lynn, John Morton is fired like Anthony Lynn was after 1 year, but I'm just telling you, the Lions got it done today and needed this win and got it with Dan Campbell at the helm calling the plays. We welcome you in, Locked On Podcast Network. Again, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen, checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Shout out to our everydayers that are out there that watch and listen to the podcast daily, like my guys Wes Davenport, Evil Genius on the old Twitter sphere, Mike Lanou, Justin Hecht. I got to give a special shout out to my family down in Texas. That's right. Allen Candy Church, the great Jessica Church, the J Dot. She's the best. Isabella, Denmark legend, and my guy Adam Church as well. Huge Lions fan. I watched the game with Adam today and the crew, and the Lions got a win. They needed to get this win and handled a bad Commanders team as the Lions improved to 6-3. 3-2 now on the road. Commanders dropped to 3-7, and they have now lost 5 in a row. This was not billed as the revenge or rematch from last year's playoff game, because quite honestly, the Commanders have no players. All right, but the Lions had to take care of business there in the rain in DC, and they did. They scored on their first 8 possessions, 5 touchdowns, 3 field goals. The only real issues today was a long kick return that the Lions allowed in the first quarter and a blocked extra point. We did not see Jack Fox all day today, other than holding. There were no punts in this game. There were no turnovers in this game. Last week, when the Lions lost to the Vikings, we told you they got to clean this crap up. They played sloppy. Huge part of this game. The Lions had 3 penalties today. 3. They had 10 last week. But we got to start with the offense and, the move that was made. And I said on Friday that I was going to give John Morton this week to get it together. I was not going to blast him. I was not going to say fire John Morton or anything else. But it's obvious that, in my opinion, Dan Campbell and Jared Goff had a little powwow. That's what I think happened here. And it became pretty obvious at the start of the game when Dan Campbell has his reading glasses on and has had them on before. You could see on social media, a lot of the beat writers were saying it appears Campbell might be calling the plays. There were others that said he was calling the plays. Mike Garafolo from NFL Network was reporting that he was calling the plays. There was some back and forth last week during the Vikings game where Campbell had his glasses on and he was a part of the conversation on the headset with Morton. But today, as we finally got late stages of the second quarter and the broadcast finally started talking about it, it appeared that Morton was basically just in the press box, but not actually calling the plays. It was Dan Campbell. And look, it worked. It worked. The Lions offense looked crisp. There was more motion. There was more space. Jameson Williams was unlocked. He had a huge game today. J-Mo was at 6 catches for 119 yards. He was targeted 7 times. The only time he didn't catch the ball the only time he didn't get a catch was on a drop late in the game. But he had a touchdown today. St. Brown had a touchdown today. 3 touchdowns for Jahmyr Gibbs today, as Jahmyr Gibbs went for 172 total yards. Last week, he was at like 30 yards. The offense got going again. The Commanders, who are banged up and are missing so many pieces along the defense. Then Deron Payne, their best defensive tackle, punches St. Brown. He gets tossed. That Commanders team is in a serious free fall, and the Lions took advantage of it. There was no question about it. Detroit was going to win this game today. But the only question was how bad it was going to be and what would the offense look like and what was this tweak that we heard Dan Campbell talk about on Friday. Well, we saw what it was. He had more of a hand in it, and it worked. And I don't know what the future is for John Morton. We know the last 3 weeks, the Lions offense in the 2 losses to Kansas City and Minnesota, and even the win over Tampa Bay, things just were not crisp. Things just were not creative enough. Today we saw crossing routes with J-Mo that we hadn't seen all year. Today we saw some misdirection that we hadn't seen in a few weeks. We saw some play action stuff with Laporta getting involved. It just seemed more creative. And again, it also helps when you're playing a lousy team whose defense is 29th out of 32 teams. All right. The Commanders' defense wasn't even good last year, but there was some creativity. Like I said, misdirection, motion, J-Mo's involved, Laporta's involved, Gibbs is involved, St. Brown's involved, Montgomery's involved. Everybody's involved. And the blocking schemes were better too today. And the guys up front, and I picked on Graham Glasgow last week, and I said, there's a chance we might see Graham Glasgow on the bench or at guard. Instead, Coyote Awashika played left guard, which we kind of expected with Mahogany out. Glasgow stayed at center, and all of those guys had good games. They all did. The entire group up front manhandled the Commanders. And the Lions just could not be stopped today. And it was fun to watch. Goff 25 out of 33, 320 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks, passer rating of 135.9. Gibbs ran for 142. Montgomery ran for 71. This is the Lions offense last week that featured a running attack that rushed for less than 50 yards. Today they had 226 yards rushing. Even throw Raymond jet sweep that got 10 yards. Where was that last week in a division game against Minnesota? So I don't know what Campbell's going to say about it. I might hit pause here and take a sneak peek at Twitter. But I like what I saw today. Again, terrible opponent. Next week, the real deal. Sunday night against the Eagles on the road. That's the big test. All right. You're not facing Javon Kinlaw, who's trash. You're going to face Jalen Carter and those type of guys with Philly. But I like the fact that Dan Campbell's not messing this thing. He's like, let me call the plays. And he might just say it might just be a one-time. But tonight it worked, and the Lions got a much, much needed win. Let's get into some of that offensive line. We'll get into that coming up next. I'm going to hand out game balls. I promise we'll do that. Got to talk about the broadcast as well, because my goodness gracious, was that absolutely painful. We'll do that all next here on a Sunday, Victory Sunday, Locked on Lions. And Locked on Lions for this Sunday evening, brought to you by our friends at Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That's sad. As a disservice. That's why you need Rippling is a unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. By uniting your employees, teams, and departments in one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, busy work, and silos your software created. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnfl. That's rippling.com, rippling.com/lockedonnfl. Rippling.com/lockedonnfl for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. I'm back on Locked On Lions for a Sunday edition. Lions take care of business today over the Washington Commanders, 44-22 for a big road win. Again, this team has not lost 2 straight games under Dan Campbell in 3 years. And Campbell did say after the game that, yes, it's a collaborative effort with John Morton. The two of them decided on Monday, this past Monday, after the Vikings game, to switch it up a little bit. And that Dan was going to be calling the plays. He did not tip his hand all week, just said there was going to be a tweak on Friday, but he says he needs John Morton. He says Morton was talking to him in the headset and that we shouldn't read that much into it. But the bottom line is the Lions clicked offensively for a team that did not look good last week against Minnesota, that struggled on offense against the Chiefs, that weren't in great rhythm against Tampa Bay either. They came out today like gangbusters and looked like a team that is the highest scoring team in the NFL again. And whether Campbell wants to or not, and he doesn't want the media to talk, but whatever it is, our job is to break down what we saw was something that worked well, and that he had the hot hand today in pressing the buttons on the machine here that racked up over 500 yards of total offense, 44 points. And look, I know the Commanders' defense is terrible. It's abysmal. Oh, Bobby Wagner, the guy's 100 years old. Frankie Louvu, he's fine. He's decent. Oh, Mikey Sanderson. We love Mikey. Michigan Mikey. It's a nickel corner. The defense sucks. The big test is this Sunday. And I'm not going to take anything away from doing what they did today. They won, and they look good, and they put up a 40-burger, and that's great. All right? But next week is a huge test against a much better team in Philadelphia. But I like the fact that Dan Campbell owned this and is not sitting back. This is not a team going, nope, this is our offensive coordinator. We're going to stick with it. Look what some of these teams have been doing. Look at how they are stuck in the mud and they're hard-headed with coaching decisions and not playing this guy and not benching this guy. Dan Campbell's like, we're doing something different. I don't like what I'm seeing. And now this team is 6-3 and heads to Philly next Sunday night. So I give them a lot of credit for doing that. Game balls coming up. We got to give some love to the offensive line as well. That group today with Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker at tackle, Awashika and Tate Ratledge at guard, and Graham Glasgow at center deserves a lot of credit. All right. They were called out last week. Minnesota was all over Jared Goff. John Morton even said it's been protection problems. And Dan Campbell intimated this week, Tristan Colon might play a little bit. We might try him at center. The only reason Tristan Colon got into the game was because Graham Glasgow injured his back, but Graham came back in the game. Penei Sewell hurt his ankle, got rolled up on, came back in the game. Taylor Decker's playing with a bad shoulder and a bad knee, yet he was out there. It's a tough group. But man, I repeat myself. I say it all the time. If this team is going to go anywhere, it's those 5 guys up front that set the tone. Jared Goff not protected, forget it. They're not going to win. And today, Dan Quinn and that Commanders defense, I don't know what they were doing. They were playing soft. They were giving the receivers tons of room. There was no blitzing going on at all. And I'm not saying that Quinn and the Commanders had to do exactly what Brian Flores and the Vikings did last week, but my gosh, Jared Goff's jersey, his white jersey top with the gray pants, which by the way looked great today. It did. Was untouched. There were a few times you had to scramble out to get out of there, but other than that, it was phenomenal work by the offensive line. So you got to give them some love. And anytime you can see, and I'll say it again, a breakout like we did from Jameson Williams, if it takes Dan Campbell calling the plays to get J-Mo to look like this, sign me up. He deserves a lot of credit. Jameson Williams has not had a great season. He hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities. He's been a decoy. All right. But today, to score a touchdown, to have a 41-yard reception as well, to get more opportunities, 7 targets. That's what it's about. And he's already a very good blocker, and he's very unselfish. But you're happy for a guy like that has not had a great year to get those opportunities today and make the most of them. You'll take it. And Jahmyr Gibbs is special. And last week was an anomaly. You give the Vikings credit. They bottled him up. The Lions did not know how to get number 0 the ball. Well, today, like I said, Jahmyr Gibbs with 3 touchdowns, 142 yards on the ground, including a 43-yard run, and just was awesome. And a touchdown through the air on a 14-yard pass on that slant. So Goff was in rhythm, and that's how you win. And I got news for you. The defense played pretty well today, too. You know, it was a very important part of this game today. The Lions won the coin toss and elected to defer to the second half, kicked off, and got a 3-and-out against Mariota and that Commanders offense. And it set the tone for the game. Force them to punt, get good field position, come down and score. Right? That deflates a home team when they get the ball first, immediately get a 3-and-out. And I know Terrion Arnold left the game today with an injury, but I thought he was pretty good. Jack Campbell had a huge stop on that 2-point conversion try. Anzalone got in there for a sack. You know, Hutchinson's around the football once again. It was just a total team effort. Offense, defense, special teams had some issues today again. They got to clean some of this up. The kick return by Igbiamini at the start of the game and the blocked extra point. Got to clean some of that up. But all in all, guys played pretty well today. Lions had only got them for 2 sacks today. The Anzalone sack was on a 2-point conversion, so that doesn't count in the stats. But Lions desperately needed a laugher. You love seeing the end of the game, Kyle Allen in there against his former team, taking some snaps. And I would have loved for David Montgomery not to be out there. And I would have loved to see Craig Reynolds or Sione Vaki. But regardless, you got Sewell off his feet at the end of the game. You had Dan Skipper out there. Dan Skipper, by the way, going in motion and lining up out wide as a wide receiver. That's the kind of stuff this team does. They keep you off balance. It looked like the offense of old today. And 3 penalties. That's it. This team played mistake-free football, kept their composure. There was some BS going on with the Commanders after touchdowns. And like I said, Deron Payne punching Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Washington completely unraveled today. Kinlaw trying to bark at Goff. Guys were unraveling on that team, and they were getting personal foul penalties. And the Lions just kept their cool, kept their composure. No trash, no nothing. Just let's get in and get out and get a win. That's exactly what this team did. So, all right, let's hand out some game balls. We will do that coming up next. And I got to talk about the broadcast today because my goodness gracious, it was just tough listen. When you're watching an NFL game, all right, there's a standard. There has to be a standard for television. There are not a lot of these broadcasts, right? I mean, what do we got? 16 broadcasts, a week with NBC and Fox and ESPN and CBS. You can't tell me there's something that Fox cannot find something better than the Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma duo. You can't tell me. Lions and Commanders, I get it. It wasn't the national game. It wasn't Rams and 49ers, but goodness gracious. We'll do that next. And Locked On Lions for today are brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Oh, yeah, that's right. The NBA is back. There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is, of course, making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, we can breathe again. Lions win 44-22 over the Washington Commanders today in Maryland. What's that called? Northwest Stadium. Jared Goff, 3 touchdown passes. Jahmyr Gibbs, 3 touchdowns. J-Mo getting into the end zone. Lions sacked Mariota, a couple of Commanders to 93 yards rushing. And just played a good all-around game. The Commanders are a mess. They've lost 5 in a row. Without McLaurin, without Jaden Daniels, that's just a bad football team. But you got to win these games. They're on your schedule. You play them, and you've got to win them. I mentioned before, maybe Fox, please, enough with Kenny Albert. I know that's Marv's son. Enough with Jonathan Vilma. How many more Jonathan Vilma games do we have to have? He told some story today about how Jahmyr Gibbs, when David Montgomery came to Detroit, Jahmyr Gibbs was only an outside rusher and never ran between the tackles. And Montgomery taught him how to run between the tackles. It's complete bullcrap. That's not true. Jahmyr Gibbs was running between the tackles before Montgomery got here. He called him Deion Branch again. He said that, "Oh, there's Christian Mahogany right there." No, that's Hank Fraley, dummy. He doesn't know anything about anything. He's terrible on the air. Why am I listening to this guy every time? We get Vilma'd all the time. He does no preparation. And that interview with the president, oh my God, was that painful? Painful. Hey, look at my 6'7". He said he tried doing the 6'7" with Trump twice. What are you doing? Did he have like a bet with like one of his kids? Like, we're going to broadcast with the president. I'm going to try 6'7" on him. Oh, we'll just score 6'7". We all know what you're doing. It's not funny. It's so bad. We deserve better than Jonathan Vilma. This is like the old days when the Lions used to get Ron Pitts on play-by-play. Stop with Vilma, please. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He can't identify the players. Oh, looks like Dan Campbell's calling the plays. Really, genius? We've been tweeting about it for an hour. Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate it. It's a high school broadcast. That's what it sounds like. High school. Game balls. Let's hand them out. First and foremost, J-Mo gets a game ball, baby. 6 catches, 119 yards. Touchdown catch today. Jameson Williams was everywhere. It was fun to see. That was that one drive where he had 3 catches. Turns the corner a couple of times. Blocks. Huge day for Jameson Williams. He gets the first game ball from me. Jared Goff, what can you say? 320 yards passing, a passer rating of 135.9, 3 touchdown passes, only missed on 8 throws, a couple of drops in there, including one by St. Brown. He gets a game ball. Jahmyr Gibbs, 172 yards from scrimmage, 142 on the ground, 30 through the air, 3 touchdowns for Jahmyr Gibbs. He gets a game ball today and deserves it. The entire O-line gets one, and Hank Fraley, no, not Mahogany. Hank Fraley, get a game ball. That group played well. Coyote Awashika at left guard. You didn't hear his name called. Why? Because he did a great job. He really did well. And I like the play today of Awashika at left guard. I know he's just a backup and a depth guy, but he did an excellent job. And wow, Aiden Hutchinson really went without a tackle today. That's pretty wild. Jake Bates, should I give him a game ball for that tackle on the kick return? Oh my gosh. Lions win. That's all that matters. Next Sunday night is going to be a huge game. Philly is playing Monday Night Football in Green Bay tomorrow. They'll be on a short week facing the Lions. Good job by the Ravens beating the Vikings today. Giants. God, you guys suck. My God. Brian Daboll, Joe Shane. What are we doing in New York? Giants led by 10. All you got to do is make Caleb Williams beat you through the air. Nope. They just let Caleb Williams run all over him. And of course, the Bears take a late lead. Then the Giants come down the field with Russell Wilson having to play because Jackson Dart got a concussion. And I don't know what Russ is doing. He's not even dropping back. They're snapping him the ball. I know you guys watched it. And literally he stood there. He wasn't even fading back. So he had no room to throw. And the Giants come up short. So the Bears win again. Oh my God. They're going to build a statue of Ben Johnson in the town after this week. I cannot wait till week 18. Oh my God. All right. That'll do it for Locked On Lions for this Sunday. Lions win 44-22 over the Commanders. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen, checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Full week of shows ahead as we get set for the Eagles this week here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one podcast network.